I'm not much 23,
And I'm ChoasAssassin.
and this is Gamer Experience.
And today we have our friend Lawful Goodwill back on the podcast with us to tell us about. I completely spaced on what it was.
Making your own homebrew content.
Oh, yeah. Seeing as how he works at a Goodwill kind of thing and had an entire game, I believe it was in Gnome Depot, is what it was called.
That is correct. Great to
And
be on.
yeah, in fact, he has a whole RPG strip mall now.
Yeah, it's been quite a lot of development going on in that area.
I bet. Is it dwarves or gnomes building the strip mall?
The construction is trolls, actually.
Oh,
We've been working with Troll Brothers.
impressive. Now, what kind of machinery are they using?
A little bit arcane, a little bit mundane activity. You still need a solid structure,
Fair,
but
fair.
most of the strip mall infrastructure is in place. They're just doing the finish work.
Nice.
But let's go through the process of something just so we can give the listeners basically just maybe some stuff hints on how to make their own homebrew stuff. So first, the why. Why make your own homebrew tabletop RPG things?
That's actually a great starting point. I personally arrived to this state, as you mentioned, from my experience in the Gnome Depot campaign. The items that were in game were relatively expensive, and I thought to myself, well, what if there was a secondhand market for magic items? Where would that be, and what would that look like? And that evolved into what became the Lawful Goodwill store.
Okay. So it's a dissatisfaction with something that wasn't in the setting.
Exactly.
It really does actually. That you brought that up. I actually have thought about. It's like, what happens when a group of adventurers, when they die and somebody finds and brings their stuff to stores? It's like, do do shops just sell them? It really does make me curious. Like, okay, what happens to some of these items, especially the ones that get broken?
Yeah, that would, I guess it would depend on the item, depend on whether or not the enchantment can, if there is any enchantment, if that can be saved or modified in some way. Yeah, there's a lot of dungeons filled with stuff out there.
Also, it comes to question the fact of, okay, at some point, people that are making these, they're not going to be experts in making certain magic items. They're not going to get this spell just right. So is also part of it some like defective things where they didn't add enough of one ingredient. So instead of it being, a fully effective thing, now it just is slightly effective. So is it, because I know if you actually read it, it takes time, and if you fail, random things could happen.
Absolutely.
So is it a little bit of some defective stuff as well for?
Some of it would be, I would categorize as defective. Some of it is just some of the items that we get in, I theorize, get into the Lawful Goodwill stores. A lot of them are cursed. So our technicians, arcane technicians, try to reduce the curse down to a palatable level. What might be something that would institute a petrification might just give you stiff joints.
Or
Things of
stony
that,
skin?
or stony skin, exactly. A irritating, annoying side effect, but not debilitating.
What kind of magic do you have to learn to be able to figure that out?
Lots of arcana. Although we have both arcanists and a fair amount of divine casters
Probably
for
to,
those.
remove curse.
Yes. Yeah, we have arcane, nature, and divine technicians on staff. Some of which develop our own items, just mundane items that people bring in, or to address some of the magical items that are brought in.
So what's like the entire process of developing the, like, do you just say, "Ooh, this kind of would be a funny idea"? Because last month we were unable to get an item from you, so we came
Mm.
up with a mood ring of resistance, where depending on your
Oh,
mood, you got resistance of an element. Like anger would be fire, sadness would be cold, disgust would be acid. Like, do you just like come up with an item and figure out how to go from there, or do you build from like the ground up? Like, okay, I want an item that does this. How can I do it?
Mostly the former. Mostly it's an item is brought in, and that is it looks funny, or it has some attribute to it. I'm like, that could go to this function. Recently put together an item, was a uranium glass cat figurine, and I thought that would make a very interesting familiar. But then the figurine, because it has uranium in it, you would need to make a DC Constitution save to keep from having exhaustion from the radiation.
That makes fair.
On the flip side, something I was thinking about earlier today, actually harkening back to one of my original items, was an spell books on records. And I was thinking it'd be nice if you had a portable recorder that could measure at least the verbal, and I get a sense of the somatic elements of a spell. To, if you were experiencing it, you could record it and then play it back. So I may have to find a way to put that into an item in the near future, sort of a spell capture device, not actually capturing the effects of the spell, but similar to how you can copy a spell book. Why not copy the arcane nature of a spell as it's being cast?
So back to the uranium cat. Wouldn't that also mean it has an aura effect?
Absolutely. One of its other aspects was that it gave off a dim light, so you could use that for recon.
Yeah. Now I'm just seeing. Not now you say uranium cat, and it just like the song from Fallout 4, Uranium Fever. Now I'm just imagining a cat singing Uranium Fever as it walks down the road.
Sort of an example, let's develop a idea that you had for our last episode, the mood ring of resistance.
Okay.
All right, so we know the fact that it's going to be a resistance based off the emotion. So how much of resistance would it give? How much is too much when it comes to a goodwill item? Also, what would the price for something like that be?
Working backwards, typically our items are between, say, 3 and 9 silver. It's extraordinary affordable items at the store. As far as the power, typically resistance is a halving of the aforementioned damage. Maybe it
Oh,
would
that's
just
right, because in D&D it works different than how it works in Pathfinder. I found this out as I'm now in a D&D game. Yeah.
uh,
So for Pathfinder, resistance is like you have resistance 5 to
okay.
fire damage. So anytime you would take fire damage, you reduce it by that number. That's
Oh,
how that works for us.
an absolute resistance versus a relative resistance. Okay.
Yes. But
Yeah, I need
that's
that's
actually
clear.
that's actually a lot stronger if it was put in the D&D world, because it's just because you're angry, you take half damage from fire. That's actually, I didn't think of that change. I didn't actually know that change was fully there, as I'm not as familiar with D&D anymore as I am
Sure.
Pathfinder.
Right. And that effect would be consistent with something like a barbarian's rage to give
Which
them resistance to various damage types.
that's actually what I'm playing in the game, as I was told we needed a tank.
Oh, very,
And
very nice.
my friend's running it, and he's trying to become a DM. At some point, he would like to join the podcast as well. And so far, I actually like how he's building his world. He's got an interesting mechanic where within the city, there's silver, copper, and gold, like piping almost, going throughout the city that all leads back to the wizard's tower. And the wizard can channel his magic through the pipes and have it come out anywhere along the pipes that the wizard wants.
Wow.
It's part of the security system. So if
Sure.
there's like a fight or something, he could entangle everything so the guards could get there.
Citywide lair effects. Very nice.
Basically, yeah, it's actually really cool. It backfired on him because in the game he had the basically pompous asshole that my character calls him get kidnapped. Well, our druid decided to cast entangle through the things and wasn't able to pinpoint, so he just filled the entire hallway that they were going down with vines.
That would
And
work.
it stopped some of the people, including the pompous asshole, from getting kidnapped. So it's really interesting, and I'm learning a little bit more. There's a lot of things that I prefer in Pathfinder that you can't do in D&D. I'm
Sure.
gonna look more into it to figure out more of, okay, I can do this. My friend just doesn't know what it is, because I thought there was like a charge mechanic where you could, double your move, run up and hit your enemy, but you take a minus to your armor class. Because that's what that is in Pathfinder, at least Pathfinder 1. I don't think you could do that in Pathfinder 2 anymore without a specific ability.
I see.
Perhaps maybe it's a mood ring of lesser resistance that only prevents a quarter of the damage.
That would work.
I think that could work as well.
Yeah.
Might bring that up to my friend of, that kind of thing.
I mean, anything you can any time you can reduce damage, that can't be a bad thing.
No, but since it's in Lawful Goodwill, it can't be too powerful.
That is fair. So it's an uncompleted version.
Yeah, that only gives you resistance against a quarter of the damage, depending on your mood.
Yes. And while I would love to finish, I do have a prior obligation I need to go to. So I will join back if I can later. If anything. Before I leave real fast, did we get any mail from
No.
our listeners? No? Darn. I was hoping we would have gotten mail at some point.
And I did get a mention through Twitter of somebody that did listen to our Awesome in Video Games episode. And
Really?
mentioned the Pit Boy.
Ooh.
Yeah, if you're in the middle of a fight, just pause, go to your Pit Boy.
I didn't even think, because not only the Pit Boy, because that also would bring in the watch from GoldenEye from the N64 of 007.
Oh yeah, the
Where
laser
you just
watch.
you sit there and just watch your watch, and they just stop shooting you. Having a pause mechanic like that would be mean.
Yeah.
I mean, a pit boy I see as, you drop a pellet or something on the ground and it opens up a pit that you jump into
No,
for a
pip,
round or two.
pip,
Oh,
not pit.
pit. Oh,
PIP.
oh, okay.
I actually been looking because I would like one because I do enjoy Fallout. I would like to get one, but they're costly. They're like $700 for one, so they're not cheap.
I see.
But I will be back later. Hopefully, I don't know.
Oh, but the show must go on.
Let the show go on.
So,
Of course, now I'm thinking of a pit boy, an item that would in fact generate a small pit that you could heal up or gear up, possibly, in the middle of a fight, and then jump back out again.
so is that one source of ideas? Just random things you hear about?
Effectively, yes. Most of the items have been from the actual Goodwill website. I'll just sit on my couch trolling through the listings of seeing what's for sale in the actual store and go, I can make that into an item. Or to use the hashtag that I think it's like Sam. There's a Twitter account I follow that always uses a hashtag that's gameable.
Oh, yeah, that would be handy. So, Mood Ring of Resistance. It only prevents a quarter of the damage based on your mood. Anger would be fire resist. Sadness, probably cold resist.
Yeah.
There's acid. What other types? Acid and
lightning, thunder damage, force, psychic. There's lots of different damage types out there.
Trying to think what mood would give you psychic resist. Defiance?
Possibly.
Maybe disgust gives you acid resistance?
That works.
Excitement could give you electric resistance?
I'm trying to think of a circumstance where you would be bored, and then that would just give you, resistance to, say, force or something. Just like, I don't care. Like, just let this wash over me.
Yeah, boredom could be force resist.
Yeah, that works.
You can feel free to use that for Lawful Goodwill if you can find an image of a mood.
I think I could find one or two, or at least declare one to be so.
Guess what? It's the mid-roll. Like always, if you have any questions, comments, or character stories, you can send them to gamersperience@gmail.com, all lowercase, spelled the same as the podcast, or as a direct message on the site formerly known as Twitter, @gamersperience. If you want more items from the RPG Strip Mall, send a message to lawfulgoodwill@gmail.com, again all lowercase, no spaces, and Les can send you a PDF of items to playtest. Oh, are those blue suede shoes I see over there? Yeah, but once you see an item image that you think can be made into a game item, what's the next step in developing that?
Well, I see it on on my phone. I'll save the picture, crop it a bit to make sure that it'll fit in my commercial format, as it were, and then start thinking of a name and then the effects, and then assign a cost.
So somebody else was wanting to make items for their own in-game store or something.
Mm-hmm.
Do they start just by looking at images of real items?
That would be my recommendation. I mean, again, you can come at it from a few different directions. That being the one that I use predominantly. The other being you're seeking a particular effect. You want to have a staff of lightning resistance. Let's just say. So you go with that concept and say, okay, how would that manifest itself in game? And then you either find or create an image to match.
I think it'd just be look like a fancy lightning rod.
Yeah, that would be the most
Straightforward.
exactly.
But of course, it's a fantasy that might be just a wooden staff with a lightning-shaped crystal on top.
That would be perfect.
You can tell I'm not nearly as talkative as Chaos is.
It's all good. I'm not often talkative, but once I'm in my elements, I tend to get a little bit more chatty. And thankfully, this is one of them. So hopefully, this will turn out well.
Yeah. And for those listening, now you know why I have Chaos Assassin on board.
Like with everything in life, or at least many things in life, you need balance. You need contributions from different types to make a effective and cohesive whole.
Like you would need different types of items to make an effective, like, economy,
Exactly.
fantasy commerce,
Exactly.
which is why you have the RPG strip mall.
Exactly. Absolutely. You nailed it on the head. What started with just a secondhand store, I think I'm approaching 10 different establishments.
So you think you could run through the rest of those establishments and maybe what they offer? I know you mentioned
Um,
I know you mentioned Troll Brothers.
I did mention Troll Brothers. They are the layer builder for the multiverse. There's They work hand in hand with Centaury 21, which is a real estate company run by centaurs.
Eh,
There's a few other merchandise stores. Obviously, Lawful Goodwill. There's the Salvation Armory, who deal with weapons as a focus, something that Lawful Goodwill doesn't do. There's certainly items from Lawful Goodwill that will do damage, but they're not weapons per se. So anything bladed predominantly would be something Salvation Armory would deal with.
recently added a tattoo parlor.
I did Legendarynque. Uh, a little bit of a borrow from the Critical Role campaign with their magical tattoos. It seemed like the natural sort of thing to include.
And from what I see, those tattoos are pretty expensive.
They do a lot though for that money, and they do take a substantial amount of time to apply and recover. Haven't had any complaints, but you're right; they are not inexpensive unless you just want a cantrip. Cantrips are pretty straightforward, pretty affordable. Uh, but the spell level dictates the cost, dictates the size.
Yeah, I can understand. And then Thac0 Bell.
Thac0 Bell, purveyors of wonderful spicy treats, mostly to reduce the math on your Thac0 calculations. But if you're not in the mood for fast food, we also have a grocery store, Gnoll Foods Market. They have your regular groceries, your meats, your cheeses, your vegetables. Nothing, nothing too processed for the most part. You try to be all natural for the most part.
But it isn't. Fortunately, it's not as expensive as its real life inspiration.
Absolutely. Let's see. Real estate, food. There is a garment store
Oh, yeah.
that was launched. TJ Minn Maxx.
In cost, max style.
You know our tagline.
I do indeed, because I follow you on the X, formerly known as
The-
Twitter.
Oh Lord, that man. He knows how to not run a business. Oh well. So yeah, I think that's everything. I'm trying to think of anybody else. Tattoo farm, food, garments, weapons, merchandise, clothing. It's a challenge to keep all of these going. Sort of, I feel like I'm juggling sometimes. I need to make sure that I get a real estate entry in every once in a while, and I should probably include some clothing now and then, rather than just focus on one store content.
Yeah, I totally understand how that could get real overwhelming real fast.
Yeah. But at the same time, maybe I don't have any inspiration for real estate, for a week or two. So nothing catches my eye, nothing, draws my attention. And so they get neglected a bit. So then I gotta, it's all a balancing act.
Yeah, because I want to run a Starfinder game.
Okay. Didn't they
And
just come out with a version 2? I think I saw something,
they
or at least
announced it. They
they
announced it at
hinted.
Gen Con.
Okay.
They're going to be play testing it next year.
Okay.
Which,
Which will release hopefully in 25.
yeah, which makes me want to use my existing first edition stuff now.
Oh, absolutely. Just to familiarize or refamiliarize you with the mechanics.
Or really just to get use out of the books that I already paid so much for.
There's that too.
But I want to have stores like what you came up with
Okay,
in the Pact Worlds.
sure.
So, how did you come up with your store ideas?
To be honest, sometimes it's just driving around and I look at a store and go, huh, that's gameable. TJ Min Max is one of those examples. There's a TJ Maxx near my house, and I happen to be driving by. I'm like, that's an idea. And from that spawned all the content. Um, I've always been a fan of puns. So, the impetus, the beginning of all this being lawful goodwill, which is like that. That's too good. That's, as one might say, too good to pass up.
Yeah.
It also helped that I was playing a lawful good, a paladin, uh, with lawful good alignment at the time. So it was like, this is a natural thing to do.
Oh yeah, Rose.
Yeah,
I told her
um,
story sent in.
you did, and did so beautifully.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really miss playing her.
But
Yeah,
yeah, I can tell you're a fan of puns.
yeah. I mean, aside from, I think Legendarynque's the only one that really doesn't have a pun to it. Although I did spell ink Ynque, but that's not very punny.
Nah, but it
The,
is a name that a tattoo shop would have.
that was my thought. I literally Googled popular or most tattoo shops with the most stores, most presents. The one that came up was Celebrity Ink. And I'm like, okay, they have like 25 25 stores. And I'm like, parlors. It's a tattoo parlor. Yeah, it's 25 parlors. And I'm like, okay, that'll be that's the kernel. Where can I go with this into the D&D realm? And I said, so celebrities are, they're important, they're flashy, and then somehow I landed on the word legendary. I'm like, legendary, that works. That's a good name. And then having the Y of legendary flow into the Y for ink, I'm like, okay, I can make this work. But then came the real fun part, leaning more heavily on my mathematical side of coming up with the prices and time and just what spells you could get for how would you represent a spell, a cantrip. I figured, something small, something not very powerful, so it should be probably a very small area of your skin. I actually went and found out, at least for humans, how much skin area somebody actually has on average, and said, how many large tattoos could you possibly get on an average human? How much spell balance that would be. these are some of the mechanics I went through to come up with the calculations that I have.
Yeah, because I've always been curious of how you came up with your prices.
Prices are, let's see, so I have the spreadsheet somewhere. The time for recovery and the application, remember, is basically the power level of the spell. So a cantrip is an hour, first levels are 2, so they kind of work their way that way. Let's see, I happen to have my laptop nearby, which happens to have all my content. Thankfully, everything's pretty, oh, there it is. So yeah, it was, well, there's the math. So yeah, the cost is the power level of the spell as an exponent to 2 times 100 gold piece. So a third level spell would be 2 to the third, 8 times 100. So it'd be 800 gold.
Oh, wow. You do like math, don't you?
I do. I do indeed.
Of course, I might just have to use that in Starfinder. Probably
Oh,
see
absolutely.
how I could
Please.
convert it to credits.
Probably a pretty straightforward translation.
Yeah, 1,000 gold probably be 1 gold's. I think 1 gold.
I mean, to make the math easy, you could just say 10.
Yeah,
And then see how those cost levels balance with the campaign.
yeah, and that's another thing you do. You invite other people to basically play test your items. How does that
Oh,
go?
absolutely. Well, at the moment, I have a pinned post in various social medias asking for people to just send me a mail to say, "Hey, I volunteer to try this stuff out." Of course, everyone's more than capable of just listening to my content on the socials and reusing the content that way. But I'll put together a PDF with a select set of items, and I'll just send them back a mail saying, here is this week's brochure, as it were, the little mini catalog of items for the store. And someone actually did so. I mean, I have about 10 people or so that have asked, but somebody actually used an item and then reported back on how it went.
Oh, so how did it go?
It went very well. It was the item was a pair of glass slippers that allow you to cast this guy's self for a period of time,
Huh.
drawing on the Cinderella mythos.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wonder what piece of media that came from.
Yeah, go figure. So yeah, they in game a player impersonated a princess to assist in the deception of some guards, I think it was. Yeah, it worked out pretty well.
So,
I've been considering making a more expansive catalog, shall we say, of items, and making a large scale PDF, multi-page with possibly even asking for pay what you want sort of arrangements.
I might have to try to come up with like Lawful Goodwill stuff for Starfinder.
All right, I can if you'd like, I could do some research and see what how I would be happy to assist if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd probably like that. Thank you. I
You're
Of
quite
course I don't want to put more load on you than you already are putting on yourself.
The nice thing is that I can modulate how much load I put on myself to satisfy other commitments. Coming up with a new item, I've got like half a dozen items already queued up on my phone for the next week or so.
Oh,
So I can slice my time and fit in 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there to accomplish things. Yeah, I can come up with 2 or 3 items inside a 10-15 minute span, depending on what's available, what content, what inspiration there is. It doesn't take me long to put together an item.
but I'm also going to want to try your method of just seeing if there's any pictures that look like they can be like a sci-fi magic item.
Sure. I mean, I could, of course, the first thing that just popped in my head would be a stainless steel hairdryer.
Oh,
Because it has a sci-fi look. The chrome, the shine gives it the proper genre,
yes.
but you could have various settings on it to blow hot air or cold air or poison gas, all sorts of different things. Ooh, or even have a mechanic where the device takes modules that dictate the type of damage it does, and then you can swap them out.
I mean, there are weapon upgrades in Starfinder.
Okay. Yeah, I need to do some more research.
Fusions.
Okay. That sounds like it's on the right track.
Yeah.
So yeah, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, so aim the chrome the chrome gas blaster.
2000.
Yeah, the chrome gas blaster 2000.
Sounds like a winner to me.
Yeah. Come up with a price. Has one upgrade slot.
Yep.
Upgrade dictates which kind of gas the Gas Blaster 2000 blasts. Can be added to a mechanic's exocortex.
Possibly, I'm not certain what that is, actually.
It's the mechanic class can have one of two options. One is a combat drone,
Okay.
which is pretty self-explanatory, and the second is an exocortex, which is a custom piece of equipment. Gives the mechanic a lot of abilities. Like, they always have the right tool kit for certain things, like hacking. It can give them, if they take an action, it can give them a bonus on certain things.
Okay.
It can be reconfigured to do other things. So if you could add the Gas Blaster 2000 to an exocortex, a mechanic could then not need an upgrade slot, just maybe a swift action to change the type of gas that the Gas Blaster blasts.
Yeah, just change out from one to the other. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm just from the phrasing exocortex, now that I'm sort of thinking about it, makes me, it sounds like a brain extension. And the way you described it fits with that model, more or less.
Yeah, look it up on Archives of Nethys.
Okay. Will do. So, I mean, that's the sort of thing that sort of an item would cross campaigns, cross genres, because, obviously, a hair dryer is something that would fit into both an arcane or sci-fi realm.
Yeah.
You cast gust, fire, have a cone of fire, a cone of cold. Yeah, a lot of potential there.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of thing that'd be nice to mount on a suit of armor or mecha gear, and then just like the swift action to slap in a new cartridge to change the attack type.
Yeah, to do that, I don't know if an upgrade slot would really work. Could work that way. Maybe it has a slot for different modules for the attack type, but it also has an upgrade slot.
Yeah, that would work. Similar to the way modern high-powered weaponry can take a magazine. You could put in a module to change out to blast cold pellets or fire, what have you. Yeah, that's scalable.
Or an acid cloud.
Exactly. Of course, now I'm thinking of the. I don't know why I hadn't thought of this before. It's so in my wheelhouse. The inventor from the movie Mystery Men.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh, you should. I would highly recommend that. Basically, let's see if I can summarize without spoiling. A group of second-tier superheroes have to get called in to save a superhero and thus save the day. The inventor I referenced would have various items. Actually, you would probably find in a store like what you're describing or in Lawful Goodwill. But the one that caught my mind was a blame thrower.
Flamethrower?
Yes. Once it was directed at a region of a cone of effect, any of the affected characters would be arguing amongst themselves about problems that occurred, or why didn't you hit that? Well, it's because you were distracting me with this other thing. Well, just bicker back and forth and totally tie up their actions and reactions.
Flamethrower calls a blame storming session.
Yes. There was a tornado in a can. Oh, right. I forgot the other one was the fabric shrink ray.
Ooh.
That can make for a tight circumstance.
Literally.
I mean, you got constriction damage, all sorts of things.
Or you could use it at the beach.
True.
So yeah, another source of inspiration. TV and movies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have found that pretty much anything can be inspiration if you just sort of think about it enough. I'm looking at a throw pillow on my couch going, if I throw this, something could happen when it lands. Maybe it's such a comfy pillow that a sphere of sleep spell that gets generated. Everybody wants to take a nap.
Well, I found this quite enlightening. Wish Chaos was here.
Yeah.
But we had a guessing game on Character Stories 3
Okay.
that I totally didn't forget about until this episode. But the question is, what is Fluffy? Of course, we got a grand total of 0 guesses. But I made sure to get what it was. Fluffy was a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And if you haven't heard Character Stories, give that context, go ahead, go give it a listen. Character Stories 4 and the rest of our catalog.
Absolutely.
And of course, I'd like to thank you, S, for listening again.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
I'm Not Much 23. ChoasAssassin had to go do something else. But this was Gamer Experience. And we invite you to go have your own Gamer Experience.